is Eileen with Make It Like Monet. I wanted to start off our Keep Kids Creative Week by talking a little bit about Lowenfeld's Ages and Stages. So if you've never heard of that, basically it's a idea of psychological development in art, and I think it's really awesome for parents to understand that kids go through different stages in art, just like they learn to talk or walk or learn math. So knowing this can really help you organize art activities for kids that are at their developmental age level and are fun for them and for you and less frustrating for everybody. So we'll start off with at the beginning. The first stage is called the scribble stage. And I know Lowenfeld said it's about 2 to 4 age, but I really think it starts more at 1 because the first part of that stage is called the disordered stage, which basically says, oh, I can make a mark and this is kind of fun. And they realize that they can actually scribble on something. So if you give, a 1-year-old a marker and let them scribble on paper, they recognize that they did that and it can be very exciting for them. The second stage is longitudinal, which basically says that they are making more permanent marks and they understand it and they enjoy the kinesthetic feeling of making those marks. But it still doesn't really have any, bearing on them and what they're trying to do. They're just having fun making marks. The circular stage is where they're actually trying to make marks, so you might see some more circular movements, some different types of more difficult types of drawing. Again, they're still not trying to make anything specific, but they realize that the different movements of their hands can create different lines and they start playing around with that. The last part of the scribble stage, which is super exciting, and I always get really excited when Millie started doing this part, is called naming. So if they make an image, they usually try to tell you that it's them or that it's mommy or a puppy or Goofy, whatever it is, they say that it is something. So that's a really big developmental stage because they start realizing that what they make can be an image, and it's really exciting to talk about that with kids, even though they still don't look very much like anything. The next stage is pre-schematic, and that is from 4 to 6, but again, it depends on your kid. This stage shows favorite people and animals, and most often it looks like a circle head with arms coming out of the body and legs coming out of the head. So there really isn't much of a body. It's like a circle with lines, but they draw their favorite people. They draw mommy and daddy, and I actually have a super cute example of that for my daughter. Let's see if you guys can see it. So you can see lots of circles with legs, but that was our family and our dog there. So again, the pre-schematic stage is very fun because kids are just, learning to make shapes and call them things. The schematic stage is around 7 to 9, and that starts to show space. So you start seeing that horizon line with the family and the tree and the house, that kind of thing. We're starting to get a sense that people live in an environment and they don't just float up in space somewhere. You can draw a whole scene. Next is the dawning realism stage. This is the stage where a lot of people get stuck because they start to realize that realistic art and what they're drawing is not the same. And kids can get very discouraged during this stage. So it's really important for parents to know that this is a completely natural progression in the life of any art student. So being able to embrace the idea that we need to learn how to make things look realistic and it's not just something that happens is totally natural in this stage of dawning realism. This is the time where you can actually introduce ideas like perspective, where things get smaller as they get farther away from you, and shading, like to create a sense of form. So you can learn a lot during this 9 to 11 stage, but it can also be very frustrating for kids and their parents because they want to make it look exactly how they look at it in real life, but there's a lot of skill and development that needs to go on to make that happen. The last stage is the pseudo-realistic stage, and after 11, in the 12 to high school age, product starts to become more important than process. So when we talk about process, it's just the act of creating art, and all kids enjoy creating art, and it doesn't necessarily have to be good for them to have fun. So remember that as a parent, you can just make something and it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be fridge worthy. They're gonna have fun. Starting around 12, they start to get discouraged when the product does not look how they wanted it to. And it's more focused on making something that looks good than actually enjoying the process of creating. So that starts to weed out some of the students who are frustrated with art and don't necessarily enjoy it. So again, as a parent, you can kind of try and focus back in process and do some fun materials that end up looking good, but don't necessarily need a lot of skill, so that you can remind them that art can be fun too. But also developing skill, because if they want something to look good, they need to spend time and work on it. At this point, either people stop making art altogether and move on to different types of creative output, or they start developing their own style. And psychologically and personality-wise, it's either a realistic type of art where they want to keep making things that look realistic with realistic colors, or it becomes more focused on color and imagination and developing an emotional attachment to art and ideas. So at this point, it's really cool to kind of see how your student or child, develops into an artist and how they see visual art making practices. So I know this is kind of a long video. I really appreciate if you stayed all the way to the end. Please share in the comments what stage your kid is in, and I would be happy to give you some suggestions as to what you could do. Thanks. Bye.